Hello friends, greetings of the day. Welcome to the online session of Business and Commercial Knowledge. In these sessions, we are learning chapter number 4, that is Government Policies for Business Growth. Now the title given here is Policy, Decision and Goal. We have to understand the meaning of these three terms. First term is policy, second is decision and third is goal. We will understand the meaning of all the three in one sentence only. See, the policy originates from the decision and decision is taken in line with the goal. It means that first the goal is set, goal or objective is set out. Once the objective or goal is set out, the government will have to take several kind of decisions in order to achieve that goals. So all these decisions, when there is a set of such kind of decisions, it becomes policy. So first goal is set. In order to achieve that goal, several decisions are taken and the set of such decision is considered as policy. Say for example, government has set a goal of increase in industrial production by 10% in the year 2021. So this is considered as a goal of increasing industrial production by 10% in 2021. Now in order to achieve this goal, government needs to take several kind of decisions. Say for example, government takes the decision of giving subsidy to industrial sector. It gives various kind of loans so that the industrial sector can be boosted up. It takes the decision related to employment. It takes decisions related to several kind of benefits or easy licensing for the industrial units. All these decisions are taken in order to achieve that goal, and the set of all these decisions become a policy. Now all these decisions are related to industry, so it will be considered as an industrial policy. So policy is the set of such decisions. Decisions are taken to achieve the goal. So goal, then decision, and the set of decision becomes policy. Now many a time the terms like political goal, decision and policy are used interchangeably, but they do not mean the same. As I explained you, all the three terms are different. First goals are set. In order to achieve the goal, the decisions are taken, and in the set of decisions is considered as policy. So all of them are not the same. So many kind of policies are there. First of it is a regulatory policy. Regulatory policy means what? The policy that is meant for regulation, putting the regulation over certain activities, is considered as a regulatory policy. It creates certain kind of regulations so that the business activities do not deviate, or the business activities perform certain standards. Regulatory policies concerned with regulation of national and foreign trade, regulation of businesses, regulation of safety measures, regulation of public utility services. All these activities are regulated by regulatory policy. This type of regulatory policies is laid down by independent organizations so that work on behalf of the government. Say for example, there is one organization called RBI, Reserve Bank of India. Reserve Bank of India is a regulatory organization. It regulates the practices of banks. Another such example is SEBI, Securities and Exchange Board of India. SEBI regulates the practices of share market. So these are the agencies that work on behalf of the government and they regulate certain activities. In regulatory activities, these policies are made by the government pertaining to those services. So, what will be the standard of performance of all these activities will be decided by the government, and the agencies will work on behalf of the government in order to regulate that activity. Next is distributive policies. Some policies are called distributive policies. Distribution means to distribute the benefits to certain segments of the society. Say, for example, there is a public distribution system. Now, public distribution system performs the task of distributing benefits to those people who are below poverty line. So under public distribution system, the people below poverty line are given ration through their ration cards. Besides that, public welfare activities are done, justice for women, justice for underprivileged people, health services to the underprivileged or poor people. These are given free of charge to all these class of people. Government charges tax from the rich class of people, and the amount of tax is utilized for the benefit of such kind of poor people. So it is considered as distribution, collected from the rich class of people and given to the poor class of people. So this policy of giving benefits to the poor is considered as distributive policy. These mainly include all public assistance and welfare programs. In distributive policies, government always start certain kind of public assistance schemes or welfare programs. Some more examples of distributive policies are adult education program. You know it very well. The people up to the age of 35 years are educated by the government free of charge. This is adult education program. Food relief camps, those people who are very much poor or helpless people, for them government starts food relief camp. Social insurance scheme is also there. Government has started an insurance scheme under which you need to pay only 12 rupees for the whole year and you get the insurance. Besides that, immunization camps, immunization for the small children for certain diseases. This immunization is given free of charge. These all are considered as the distributive policies because the free benefits are given to this class of people. Now, Government of India started liberalization process in India because you know that after the independence in 1950-51 we adopted the constitution, and after the adoption of constitution our country had adopted the mixed economic system, but this mixed economic system was not very much successful. Up to 1991 we could not get any kind of progress, we could not grow our economy. So the government realized that we need to adopt certain good aspects of policies. So the government started liberalization. Liberalization made the rules of foreign trade simpler. Government had put several kind of restrictions before 1991, but in 1991 we started liberalizing the foreign trade and foreign exchange related rules were also simplified. It became now easier for Indian companies to do the business abroad. Indian companies were given easy license to start their branches or subsidiaries in foreign countries. The competition rules, IT Act, Intellectual Property Act, all these kind of acts were codified so that Indian companies can do the trade in foreign countries also. foreign funds started to flow in the form of FDI, that is foreign direct investment. FDI was also liberalized and foreign companies were invited to invest their fund in India. FII, that is foreign institutional investors, they were also permitted to invest their stock in India. Privatization drive helped the government to generate a pool of resources. Now government started privatization. Privatization means what? Privatization means the public sector companies are handed over to the private sector, or we can say that the shares of public sector companies are sold out in the market. That is also considered as a privatization. So government started the movement of privatization so that revenue can be generated. Now, how does this privatization work? Let us understand that point. India initiated its privatization program in 1991. As you know that 1991 is considered as a revolutionary year because in this year we had started LPG policy, that is liberalization, privatization and globalization. So under 1991 we had started privatization program. There were two main objectives of this privatization. The first objective was to raise revenue to ease the financial crunch. That means government of India was facing financial crisis. Now in order to come out of this financial crisis, government wanted to create the source of fund. So they had only one way to create this revenue, and that was to sell out the public sector units. So government started selling out the loss making public sector units and government created revenue out of selling these units. Second objective was to improve the profitability and efficiency of divested enterprises. Now these units, when they were under the government hand, they were not performing well, they were not profitable, they were not efficient. So government decided to sell them out to the private sector so that their profitability and efficiency can be increased. So that was the second objective, to increase the profitability and efficiency of the public sector enterprises. So with the help of these two objectives, government started privatization. Now we learnt the concept of privatization from Britishers. In British government, the Prime Minister Mrs. Margaret Thatcher, Mrs. Margaret Thatcher had started privatization there in Britain. In Britain, Mrs. Margaret Thatcher started the privatization of British coal mines and many components of national healthcare services and school education services. These were privatized by British government. From the concept of privatization that was started by British government, we adopted this concept in India also. So the root or the cause of Indian privatization was British privatization. British government started privatization and we learnt privatization from them and we adopted it. Privatization can be done in different ways. The first out of them is delegation. Now to delegate means what? To delegate means to assign the duty to someone. Government will keep the responsibility or ownership will be in the hand of government only, but certain functions will be allotted or certain functions will be assigned to private organizations or private contractors. There is active involvement of the government. Delegation may happen through contract, franchisee, grant, etc. So for example, if you go to any government office, the staff members that are working there, they are working on the basis of contract. They are not on the government role. That means government, they are not the government employees, but they are working on the third party contract. That means the contractor is given certain amount, and that contractor will hire the employees will work in this office. So ownership will remain with the government, but the task will be performed by private organization or private individuals. This kind of activity is considered as delegation. Second is divestment. Now divest is the opposite of invest. Once government had invested their money into the business, now this business is sold out to the private company, and that becomes divestment. So whatever was invested, that is taken back, and it is called divestment. So divestment, government surrenders partial ownership and responsibility and sells out the majority stake to one or more private entities in the course of time. So for example, government sells out 51% of its shares to a private company. This process is known as divestment. For example, government sells out 51% shares of ONGC, that is Oil and Natural Gas Corporation. 51% shares of ONGC are sold out to Reliance Petrochemicals. Now this process is known as divestment because government has earned 51% shares out of it. So this is the process of divestment. This is also a type of privatization. Another is displacement. Now displacement means removing from the market. Private enterprises are expanded and gradually they displace the government entities. At the initial stage, there is only government organizations, but after certain time government opens up the business for the private sector companies, and these private sector companies start their businesses, and as a result the government organizations are moved out of the market. For example, here BSNL and MTNL. In the telecom sector, we can take the example of BSNL and MTNL. BSNL, that is Bharat Sanchar Nigam Limited, and MTNL, that is Mahanagar Telecom Nigam Limited. These two companies of the government were initially the market leaders in the telecom sector. But after certain years, government opened up the telecom sector for the private business, private companies. Slowly and gradually, private companies became market leaders, and BSNL and MTNL are removed out of the market. So this process is considered as displacement. Another type is disinvestment. Disinvestment means what? Disinvestment is selling a portion of ownership in a public enterprise to private parties. Under disinvestment, government start selling the shares into the open market, and general public purchases these shares from the open market. This process is known as disinvestment. So these four are the different ways in which government may adopt privatization.